All right, workshop's in session, and city manager, I want to turn it over to you.
I think he's going to go down to the next item.
I'd like to go to item number 2 and wait for discussion regarding GAP because we would need Councilmember Coughlin
Okay.
to be here for that one.
Sounds good.
Oh, look, Mayor, here's your thing on the gap thing.
Okay, thank you.
Number 2, questions and discussion regarding agenda items. I open the floor to mayor and council for any questions you may have regarding the agenda items.
Do we have a meeting?
Can you find your agenda? Twice in there. Here comes Mary.
Got my super information box here.
Yeah.
Well, looky there.
Controversial.
Must've been hung up on
I've
the
been trying
elevator.
to put some lights on some.
Have you ever been on the elevator in VA hospital?
Takes forever.
That's the reason you're late getting there.
That works for me.
That's a little slow. All right, let's stay with that agenda since the councilman just showed up. And anybody have any questions on any of the agenda items? Sounds like that's pretty explanatory for what I read through. All right. So if we don't have any questions, are you ready to go back?
Take 2. We'll go back to number 1, discussion regarding GAP. Councilmember Coffin brought this to our attention, and I would like to yield time to allow Ms. Coffin to discuss GAP.
Okay. Thank you, Serena. I don't have a, I didn't bring any kind of presentation because we're just way too early for that. I really just need to see if anybody's interested, and I guess we can go from there, but, oh, you printed something else?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, okay.
I had a little help, but I got it
Oh,
done.
okay, all right. Well, I didn't realize everybody's gonna get copies. That's fine. And based on a limited amount of time for the workshops, since we've got to go down at 6:30, I didn't want to keep it real long either. So I'd like to introduce the concept of doing a GAPS project, which basically would be similar to the Oklahoma City Maps project, only it would be for the Guthrie area projects. A program like this would enhance our quality of life. Projects that we could put on a project list like this would be infrastructure, recreation, downtown enhancements, and education. And I don't really want to get into any of the other stuff. I just think those are some main areas that we can focus in for certain projects, and you could put whatever you wanted to under those projects. Some of those already are in the CIP, in our CIP plan. So that's why we would need staff's help with some of this stuff to see, what is needed, and so we don't overlap or overdo anything. We've got a great town, and we need to preserve it. We need to take care of it, and we can do more to showcase it. But we're going to have to do something to make it happen. It's just not going to happen on its own. We are going to have to do something. And if we were to follow the blueprints, kind of like what the Oklahoma City's done, there are people who actually helped in doing that here in Guthrie. I've talked to them. They said they'd be willing to, make some phone calls and visit with some people to give us some help in how we could lay things out for a project like this. So, really, it'd be great if we could have some kind of a staff where they could kind of dive into some projects, but it's really up to the council if the council
I
wants
got
to
a
do it.
question. I know maps was very much very much an aesthetic thing for the downtown area, to make the downtown very different. And we had talked before about having kind of a vision for downtown. It seems to me, because this is really, if you get this huge list, really this is a lot more money than I think we're talking about here. So some of these things like street paving, unless you're talking about just downtown. If you're just talking about downtown.
We can do whatever we need to do, John. It's up to us. I think that if we need to have a big vision of everything. We need to have a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan. Some of this stuff will take that long.
Right, well, I think that, for example, if you did a downtown, what we would need to do is have more of a, like maybe do a feasibility study. How much would it cost to do certain things to make our downtown very attractive? You know, whether it's like create bricks downtown, you know, kind of
That's all
a
part
brick
of it.
facade, you know, do, you know, changes downtown and whatnot, and see how much that would cost, like a feasibility study. I think that would be a first step to see, well, how much is something like that's gonna cost? The biggest thing for me,
We have to know
though,
the cost to make this happen.
is first though, is we need to have a vision. You know, what do people want? Let's, you know, and sell the vision, say, do you want this? If you want this, well, okay, now let's talk about ways to fund it. But I
That's
don't
where
wanna
the
really talk
advisory
about,
committee could come in on this.
I don't wanna
to
talk
help
about
with that.
funding first. It seems to me we need to sell a vision first.
That's
What's a
what we're
vision?
doing here.
So,
That's what we're doing. We don't want to get the cart before the horse.
Well, we've
We
all
want
been to towns like our size that we've been able to park and walk downtown where it's all blocked off, but it all inner circles and comes together and how much we enjoy it and like it. Well, our town is just set up perfect for something like that. So they've done it in other little towns, why can't we do it?
You know, the sky's the limit on anything, on doing anything. It's just what little projects can we take on, do a little bit at a time, and then get it done. Let the public see, hey, you know, this looks great, we like this, let's do another little project. Because you have to have the trust of the citizens too.
And I think that some of this kind of overflows into the sports complex idea too.
It might.
Like community center, I was hoping that that might be part of the sports
We're
complex.
right on top of that one.
And these are just ideas, these
Yeah.
are just out there.
I think it's very positive. I like, you know, having something positive to look forward to and a good future, and understand there are things that unfortunately funds and whatnot that we don't have, but we can't really even have a hope to get it going if we don't do something.
Right, we have to have some sort of a vision.
Well, we're gonna be making money off our sports complex too, that could go
And
towards
the
something
city,
like that.
but the map.
Exactly, exactly. It all goes hand in hand.
Exactly.
Yeah, we really need sidewalks and biking trails and things like that. It'd be great to have some going out on Division. It'd be great to have a town square of some sort. I mean, and some of these are in plans to have biking trails that go from parks to out to the lake. And so, you know, we could slowly work on some projects like that.
Councilmember Coffin, if you heard the word advisory committee, would that be something that the council would appoint for an advisory committee for this?
Yes.
Okay. My second question is, if you would like me to move forward, we could just take a look at the current CIP and attempt to integrate that into each of these items, and I can bring forward a plan of what those are kind of scheduled for, but I think absolutely I have to also be thinking about funding.
Sure.
I don't always need a study for these things to know what the funding is.
Right.
You know, some of these we know.
And some of
how
those
much-
have been done. I mean, there is an old plan for some of the sidewalks to go out to Walmart. They have that for, what, 2009, Renee?
Yeah, that's when
Was it
they started.
09, you know, which need to be
So some of those
updated.
we have, and just need to brush off and.
Right.
I need to take a look at the current CIP, and when you use the word next year, we're talking fiscal year 2014, or we?
Yeah,
when you- okay.
I would think 2000, well, even if we could do it actually in 2013.
Sure.
I think once we need to get the elections out of our way and get our new people in, because right now nobody's gonna do anything, because it's voting time. It's gonna be election time, and nobody's gonna pass anything right now.
I think staff would be comfortable with an advisory committee that we can start with, rather than bring it to y'all, get that committee set up, have some preliminary meetings, and be able to tie our current CIP and have those serious conversations about where do we seek funding.
Mary, I think it would be plausible to utilize, I mean, we already have a Citizens Rate and Advisory Council. Do you think it would be advantageous to utilize those folks? I mean, we all pick those
Sure, if
people
they'd be
within
willing to do it.
within our wards. And
Sure.
I don't see why that they couldn't kind of carry this task. And I think it'd be a task that they would
If they
would
wanted it.
enjoy too.
That's one I haven't told you that.
So,
Sure.
And I love dropping bombshells on Serena. Because-
Love another committee.
But instead of forming
It'd be
maybe
more like a
Well,
task
that's-
force probably.
Yeah.
Makes sense, task
Yeah.
force.
Supervisory task
because it's
force type
in a
thing.
way it is kind of within that bailiwick or what we set them in place for, and
That's
maybe
exactly
that's
what we need for this.
maybe we can put that task upon those
Well, we
folks.
need people like Jan Goodyear and Gary Weeks.
Well, and I think we have the people already in place and then invite those other folks to be networking out. That
Yeah, I know some
kind of
people who
develop.
would be interested in serving on it. so.
Okay, perfect.
Well, I think one of the things they have to do in this committee is prioritize. There's a lot of projects here, we're talking,
Sure.
I guesstimate, $10 to $30 million. I mean, there's a lot of, kind of big stuff here. And so we gotta prioritize, so even if we have a funding mechanism that's pretty big, it's gonna take a lot of years, so, what are we gonna do first? So it'd be nice if we got a little bit of sense of what they think is important.
Some of these will be 5-year projects,
Yeah.
very easily.
Or 20-year projects.
Well, and I
And
know.
all, if it takes 20 years to do all this stuff, it's a big wish list.
Well, and like I said, I mean, we all know,
I'll
I
be
mean,
dead and gone.
I might say that we call it the
Take that one.
gaps, plural project,
Yeah.
'cause
Oh,
it's
yeah.
multiple projects, not the
Well,
gap.
I didn't want to assume that, so I didn't put that on there.
But, and I know we don't want to talk about money, but money is always, it's always the elephant in the room, if you will. And, Councilman Wood and I actually had this discussion the other day, that it's easy to look at it and say the MAPS project, it had a 1 cent sales tax, but that's 1 cent of a lot of folks. Our 1 cent sales tax, if we had that in place, ain't gonna nearly go as far. So
Well, I
as we
think-
think about those things, be thinking about them, because.
Well, and I think that's why we need to include the education in there and the schools and have, Dr. Simpson, get some input from him, get some input from the county too. Not only can it help the city, but it also can help the county too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and this follows what we talked about in our getaway, whatever, our little workshop that we had as a council, so I dig it, I'm on it.
And I know some of these will take years, but I have
Absolutely.
children, and so when they grow up, they'll be able to do things that
That's right.
this council may have
That's
put the
right.
seed in place to grow it, so. Or their children, and
And
that's
build it,
what's
the
so
people will
important
come,
to me.
there's no doubt about that. You gotta have faith.
What I'd like to propose then is how about if the council members send me names of those individuals? I've heard some names today. I was going to this committee, if I could get a list of those committee members and then any additional. When I think of an advisory committee, we want a manageable amount of individuals. That's important, I think, to staff. When I think about committees, I also think of 3 questions, and it's who's going to be involved, where are they going, and what are we gonna do when we get there? And so it's one of these, right now, what I'm hearing is that group needs to prioritize. And I think that would be the first meeting. I don't like to call meetings just to meet, and so we'll set forward a game plan. But I need names from council to put that together.
Well, and let me add, your first meeting may want to have some Bush strategery.
I'm unfamiliar.
Yeah, all right. But I mean, like with the Parks Board, to bring those guys in, I mean, obviously they're gonna have direction of where they wanna see, some of these items here. As their priority.
We give it a list of names. Are we calling it the advisory committee? Is it a focus group? Is it a, you can name it, the Synergy Group, the Guthrie Alliance Project, whatever.
Guthrie area projects.
Okay, and it will just be the committee on the Guthrie.
GAP, that's what it is.
Okay, so we'll have a GAP committee.
With an S in it.
The gaps.
Gaps.
GAPS,
I want to ask.
GAPS committee.
Multiple
I
gaps.
shop at the Gap. Mind the Gap.
All right, Mary, thanks for bringing it to us.
Thank you, appreciate it. Thanks,
Thank you,
Council.
City Manager, for lining this, starting us in the direction.
Short and neat.
We ought to address the brochure that Cody made that's so outstanding.
If you like, in front of you is a piece of literature. Cody is attending a meeting in Dallas. He leaves tomorrow. And what he is attempting to do at this is to recruit developers into our community. So he has a list of what our populations are, a lot of data, what available properties are, what potential use is. It's a great piece to provide to developers of who we are and what we have available. On the back is a QR code where they can pull out their fancy smartphones, scan it, and be directed to a website for additional information.
That's really nice.
Thank you very much.
Where's
job.
the information based off of, Cody?
Esri data. It's on the bottom right is where we cite our sources. It's Esri data and it's based on a 10-mile radius.
You
Yeah,
ready?
it looks great, nice job.
Thank you.
Number 3, request for future items of discussion. Council members have any specific items they'd like to see on an agenda?
We'd like to get the blessing of the city council so we can get started with the Field of Dreams.
I'm referring to that as a sports complex? is
Yes,
that-
yes.
okay.
We'd like to have your blessing to turn us loose and let us go.
I wish there was some way we could coordinate the efforts so we're not kind of, because it sounds like they would be a great thing to do together, the gaps.
Except I
kind
think
of-
you've got funding, you think they have, I think they have funding for it, that's right.
We got the money for the ballpark.
But it, I mean, there were so many things listed and it's like one of the dreams on your gaps
Yeah,
list
for the
is to
community.
do that.
As the money comes in off of our complex, it'll help pay for all that.
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying, it kind of commingles. I
So
don't-
maybe
If
some
you guys
person
wanna
from that
think-
needs to
keep
help
it-
with this other so it doesn't
Okay.
double
It could be
dip.
structured as a
Yes.
subcommittee as well. You could have gaps and it's the big umbrella.
Yeah.
And then that group be the sub for recreation, sports complex.
I don't mind.
Did you ask him?
Well, Jan Gummerson and Gary Weeks.
Gary Weeks.
Yeah.
Any other items for future meetings?
I think we should have a buffet before every council meeting.
And we have a volunteer to provide a buffet for every, thank you. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Moving to our right.
We're having a buffet tonight, right?
Seeing no more, we move to number 4,
Here you are.
personal favorite of adjournment.
We're out of here.
I really like Asian.